Okay, we're recording.
Okay.
We're at the top, the very beginning of section 18, and we don't have a volunteer.
I can do that one, the first
Okay,
18, 1 and 2, right?
great. Take it away.
Okay, so inter ea cum de motu atque impetu barbarosum subita civitatem fama turbaset, demoniacum ad se exhibere iubet. So inter ea, in the meantime, when a sudden report about the uprising and the attack of the barbarians had alarmed the city, which I think it's Trier here.
Yep.
He, meaning Martin, bids or orders a demoniac to be delivered to him, to be brought to him.
Good.
Imperat ut an veros esset hic pateretur.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay. He commands that he declare whether this news was true. And the second
Good.
sentence.
Hi, Joanna. Just
Hi.
say hello.
Hi.
You're in the dark.
Sorry, I'm so dark.
It's okay, you know, it's the look. Keep going, Mona.
Okay,
We're
so this
at 18.2.
Yeah, I see it. Thank you.
Okay. Tum confessus est decem demonas secum fuisse, qui rumorem hunc per populum disversissent, ut hoc saltem metu ex illo Martinus opidu fugaretur. Then, Tum, he, this is that possessed person, confesses est, that there were 10 demons with him who had spread or scattered this rumor among the people, per populum, so that by means of this fear, at least, Saltem, Martin would be driven out of that town, from that town.
Good.
Barbaros nihil minus quam de eruptione cogitare. And then this demon again, he confessed that the barbarians were just or merely thinking about a raid.
Yes.
Ita cum haec.
Can I just say something about the Saltim?
Sure.
I think I took that, and I just wanted to know if you all took it the same way, that is by this fear, at least, if not the real thing, since there wasn't actually an attack, that just by the fear alone, you know, so it's like we wouldn't say at least, but I'm not sure what we would say, but the meaning is that just by the fear, if not the thing itself.
I think just is really good.
Oh, just is good. Okay, yeah.
Do you think, Jen?
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
Just by means, so that just by means of this.
Yeah, okay.
Hi, Paula.
Hi, Paula.
Hi, Paula.
Hi.
So the barbarians are just thinking about a raid. They're kind of lazy. It's summer. They're not going to do anything. Ita cum haec immundus spiritus in media ecclesia pateretur, metu et turbatione praesenti civitas liberata est. So thus, when the unclean spirit confessed pateretur, these things, right in the middle of the church, the city was freed from the fear and the existing confusion.
Yes.
And about that minus, the barbaros nihil minus quam de irruptione, I thought it meant that the barbarians were doing nothing less. This was the least thing that they were doing. There was nothing they were doing less than this. Made me thinking
Nothing less than thinking about a raid. Or I think I caught that in the notes. They were merely thinking about. Nihil minus quam, merely, right.
Oh, merely thinking about it? I don't think that's right. I think it's they were doing nothing less. There was nothing they were doing less than even thinking about a raid. In other words, they weren't even
Thinking about it.
They weren't even thinking about it. Whereas if the notes say, I didn't look at the notes. If the notes say they were merely thinking, that is a whole different meaning.
Right, that's true.
I agree. I hadn't noticed that in the notes. Yeah, he's weakening it, I think, too much.
Yeah, I think he's saying there was nothing, they weren't doing anything as little as they were doing thinking about invading.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
So Paula, we're at 18, section 3.
Is Maristela here?
I don't think so. Let me just check the participant list. Nobody's there more. Nobody's there. Nobody's getting a message. I don't think she's there.
Looking nihil minus up quickly in Lewis and Short, it as a response, it means by no means. Not
Yeah, but that's nihilo minus, right?
No, nihil minus.
Oh, nihil minus, okay.
Yeah. So by no means, in other words, so with the quam, I think you're absolutely right. It doesn't mean merely. I think it means they were not at all thinking.
Right. By no means, nothing less than this. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so Maristella's not here. Anyone else want to volunteer? Joanna, you up for this?
Sure.
Okay.
I did sign myself up at the last minute. I thought I had signed myself up and then I wasn't, but then I did at the last minute. So I took in section 20 as a bit, but I'm happy to do this.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. Apud Parisios vero, dum portam civitatis illius, magni se cum turbis euntibus intruiret, leproso miserabili facie horrentibus cunctis osculatus est, atque benedixit, statimque omni malo immundatus. Wow. Okay, so this is among the Parisians in Paris. However, or truly, or then, but in Paris, when he was going into the gate of that city with great crowds going with him, he kissed a leper of a miserable, of horrific appearance, miserable, pitiable appearance, with everybody just being horrentibus, appalled.
Right.
And he blessed him. With everyone being appalled, he kissed him, and everybody was appalled, and he blessed him. And immediately he was made clean of all his affliction, of all his evil, his disease.
Good. One thing I noticed that commentators, including Fontaine, always seem to treat these place names as though we're in like the world of Julius Caesar, where the Parisii are a tribe and the Treveri are a tribe. These are clearly the words that are going to give the place names. This is going to become Paris, obviously. I'm struck. My instinct about the 4th century, which is not worth very much, is that at this time these were the cities, and you just said, I'm going to Paris, I'm going to Trier.
So you didn't say among the Parisians.
Yeah, I mean, for example, if you take Trier, it's really hard for me to believe that they're still that when they said Trèvery, they're saying, "Oh yes, among Trèvery."
Right,
They surely mean the capital. It's where the emperor is. It's got to be Trier, I think. So I was struck by that. It's very
very people oriented.
Yeah, it seems very out of date. When Caesar was conquering Gaul, sure, but I would have thought this was Paris. Anyway, keep going.
Okay. Postero die ad ecclesiam veniens nitenti cute gratias pro sanitate quam receberat agebat. The next day, coming to the church with a gleaming skin, with his skin glowing with health, he gave thanks for his health, which he had regained.
Mm-hmm.
Nec praetereundum est, quod Fimbriae vestimento eius, cilicioque detractae crebras super infirmantibus egere virtuti. Nor is it to be left out, to be passed over, that the fibers,
fringes,
the fringes,
like the fimbriae, like the tassels, the tasseled edges.
Yeah. Okay. I guess this dative is like a possessive of his garment. No, detracti.
Right.
Having been pulled out of his vestment.
Right.
And his sackcloth. Is that what that is? That's that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Having been pulled out of his vestment and his burlap.
So actually, maybe it has to be threads, right? Because presumably his burlap cloak doesn't have tassels.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's got to mean threads.
I just thought it was like the fiber things.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Having been pulled out, it's not to be passed over that they performed miracles, densely, frequently, over sick people. In other words, that they healed a lot of people.
Right. Right. I think over works perfectly well there.
And then it describes how they did that.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, Joanna. Are you sure it's super the preposition?
Am I sure that it's super the preposition? No. What's your suggestion?
I'm just wondering if it was infirmantibus dative, they perform miracles for their advantage, and then super in addition. Like it can't be passed over.
Oh, yes. Crebra super, free, yeah, densely above and beyond.
I mean, I couldn't decide, so that's
yeah. I don't know. That is definitely a good thought. Thank you.
But in addition to what?
In addition to having done it directly, that he had healed a sick person directly. In addition, even just the fibers were able to do the same thing.
I like that.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
Although it's a very displaced super if it does mean.
I thought to say to perform virtute super someone was an odd phrase. That's kind of,
I think I agree with you.
Yeah, it's funny to me. It made perfect sense, right? You perform a miracle over someone if right?
Or upon someone.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Does Fontaine say anything about that, or what does his translation say?
Okay.
I have it here.
No. 19 super.
No, sur les malades. He translates it as sur les malades. As on them. Perform miracles on them. I guess we would say that too.
Yeah.
But I like that idea, Jen. Mm-hmm. Thank you. Nam digitis ligatae aut collo inditae saepe ad agrotantibus morbus fugaverunt. 4, tied around the fingers or put around the neck, they often chased away diseases from sick people.
Good. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
I can go on, but then I have another.
Sure, keep going.
Or would somebody else like to take over?
Jen, do you want to do it for a while? Paula, you want to volunteer? I don't...
No, I got a big chunk at the end.
You get yourself a tough one.
Well, Jen, why don't you?
Sure,
Kind of a fun one at the end, yes.
I'm happy to. Arboreus autem, vir praefectorius, sancti admodum, et fidelis ingenii, cum filia eos gravissimis quartanae febribus ururetur, epistulum Martini, quae casu ad eum delata fuerat, pectori puellae, in ipso ac cesu ardoris inseruit, statimque fugata febris est. However, Arboreus, a former prefect, a man of quite holy and loyal or faithful character, when his daughter was being burned by very serious attacks of malaria.
Quartan fever. Is that malaria?
That is malaria.
Oh. I just know that phrase. I never knew what it meant.
I mean, I guess it doesn't have to be, but that's usually what commentators say about it, is that it's malaria, because it gets worse what we would say.
Oh, right.
There's a lot of debate about what those different words for fevers and such mean, but we know for a fact that there was malaria in the Mediterranean, because most of Caesar's biographers agree that when he fled from Sulla, he got malaria and suffered from it for the rest of his life.
Mm-hmm.
So if commentators are saying it's malaria, it's probably malaria, but we can never really be sure. It's some kind of recurring fever.
Right.
Yeah, quartan fever. Okay.
But malaria was very prevalent.
Oh, yeah.
In much of the Roman Empire at that time.
Hmm.
Well, it's certainly Caesar I'm thinking of for saying it. So
Yeah.
Okay. So when his daughter was sick, he put a letter of marque that had been delivered to him by chance onto his daughter's chest at the very attack of the fever, at the very increase. And immediately the fever was put to flight.
We don't know what was in the letter.
Martin's holy power.
Quinine.
Quaeres apud arboreum in tantum valuit ut statim puellam deo voverit et perpetuae virginitate dicaret. And this this affair, was worth so much at Arboreus's, really to him, but it does say that immediately he vowed the girl to God, and he dedicated her to perpetual virginity. Profectusque ad Martinum puellam ei praesens virtutum eos testimonium, quae per absentem licet curata esset obtulit. And having set off to Martin, he offered the girl to him, a in-person testimony, a present testimony of his miraculous powers. The girl who had been cured, although through him absent. So even though he hadn't been there. Neque ab alio eam quam Martino habitu virginitatis imposito passus est consecrari. Nor did he allow her to be consecrated by anyone other than Martin, with the habit, clothing of virginity having been put on.
Yeah, so we would have to translate that ablative absolute a little differently than with Martin putting on the habit of.
She had put it on, right?
Well, I think what it means is that then the habit having been put on by Martin, he didn't allow her to be consecrated with the habit of virginity having been put on her by anyone else than by Martin. In other words, like if he had sent her away to somebody else to be,
She wouldn't have done it.
he wouldn't have done it.
I was just I mean, it sounds like I wasn't specifically taking ab alio am comma Martino specifically with the ablative absolute. I was taking it with consecrari.
But what I'm saying is I think that here the ablative absolute isn't quite as absolute. I think it's actually connected to Martin. I think he's saying that he wanted the habit to be put on by Martin, not just that he wanted her to be consecrated. I mean, the consecration is what happens when you put on the habit, so I guess it doesn't really matter. But you think it's really just with that the imposito is just really absolute. It's just not connected at all to the a Martino.
I didn't think so. No. I mean, sense-wise, obviously, like.
Yeah, sense-wise. I mean, grammatically, not, but.
I don't think so.
Right.
I thought it was just an absolute.
It's just, so it sort of says the time. So when it was time to put on the habit, she didn't let anybody consecrate her except Martin.
Okay, yeah.
The father didn't let anybody.
Right.
Right.
So
Right.
doesn't that keeps the ablative absolute grammatically?
Okay.
Right.
I mean, I certainly agree that that's the idea. But
It comes to the same thing in terms of who's doing what to whom.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. One more sentence, Jen.
Paulinus magni vir postmodern futurus exempli.
Wait, wasn't this Mona's?
Oh, does she start here? Mona, do you start here?
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh,
But
I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
No, I just marked it wrong.
Time to steal.
okay. And I'm just going along with the story.
No. Okay, so Mona, thank you, Jen.
Sentence 3.
Sentence 3. So 19.3.
Okay. Paulinus magni vir postmodern futurus exempli cum oculum graviter dolere coepiset et iam pupillam eos crassia nubes superducta texiset. Oculum ei Martinus penecilo contigit, pristinamque ei sanitatem sublato omni dolore restituit. So Paulinus, the fabled Paulinus of Nola,
Mhm.
afterwards, after that time, meaning an eminent man of great character, magni exempli, when he began to suffer rather severely, oculum, with respect to his eye or an eye. So he had an eye problem or an eye disease,
Mhm.
and a rather thick film having been drawn over his pupil
Mhm.
had now covered it. Martin touched the eye for him with a little sponge or a brush or some kind of implement.
A brush.
A brush, okay.
Yeah.
It can specifically mean a kind of eye salve, though, according to Lewis and Short.
Oh, yeah?
Really?
Ah, okay.
That's why from the meaning that it's a small sponge.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. That would make better sense than somebody sticking a brush in your eye,
Yeah.
or sponges and other things. So Martin touched the eye for him, and all pain having been endured, all pain having been suffered, that means like it was past, it was over.
From Tolo, though.
Taken away.
Taken away. Okay.
Tolo
Um,
tolere sustuli sublatus, to lift, raise.
To lift it, having been lifted, Martin, subject, restored his former health to him.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. My one thing I would retranslate is that word exempli, which I think you translated character. I think it's such an important word in classical thinking, and I think and early Christian thinking. This focus on the role of people have as exempla for other people. That you're
As
a model. You're a model for other people to behave themselves, for how to behave. And I think if you look at it, it's that almost chiastic structure. The Magni vir postmodern futurus exempli, that the way Magni exempli kind of embraces that, shows, I think, how important that is for Sulpicius's thinking. I mean, I don't mean that he's making a big deal about it. I think he just takes it for granted that that's what's important about Paulinus, is that he's an exemplum.
Or that, I guess, that he will become one in the future.
Yeah, right. That he's going to be.
Going to be, yeah, this great.
A sort of precedent for other people. Okay. I guess I was looking at the notes. Sometimes I look there, and I think I found it. Yeah, some fine example, and then I looked up exemplum because I thought that was interesting, and I found character as one of the definitions. So he's all of these things and more. So let's see, sentence 4. So ipse autem cum casu quodam esset de cenaculo devolutus et per confragosus scalae gradus decidens multis vulneribus esset affectus. And moreover, when he himself, this is Martin, by some chance, clumsiness one would think, had fallen or tumbled down from an upper floor, and Decidens, falling down, had been injured with many wounds.
Where is your upper floor?
Maybe I just put it in there. De Cenaculo. Cenaculo, yeah.
Right. But then what about the per confragosus scalae gradus, which I think
there was some talk about that, whether it was he fell from a ladder or downstairs.
Right. It's some kind of broken steps of a stairway, or broken steps of a ladder, or something's wrong with them. Like maybe uneven. They could just be uneven or whatever. But there's
from the landing, or even from like the top of the stairs down to the bottom.
Right.
Top of the stairs meaning like the upper floor, or something, rather than that he fell like off of a balcony or something.
Yeah, and he was falling down these confragosos gradus, these broken up or uneven.
There's something wrong with him. So just to be fair to him, it's not clumsiness. It was
something wrong with that. He's not careful.
Well, it's kasu, it's misfortune.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
So he's fallen off some broken steps. Cum ex animis jaceret in cellula et modicis doloribus curciaretur. While he was lying lifeless in his little cell, and curciaretur was being tormented with excessive pains. Nocte angelus visus es eluere vulnera et salubri unguedine contusi corporis superlineri. During the night, or in the night, an angel was seen to wash the wounds and superlinere, to daub, or to daub the black and blue marks of his bruised body with salubri unguedine, with a health-giving ointment, for him. Ablative of, I think
it's ei visus est angelus, an angel appeared to him.
Oh.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. Okay. It sounded a little stilted for him.
Hmm.
It would. I expected it, although I don't know if that's what you do in Christian stuff. I expected it to mean he dreamed.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, I think that's standard in Hebrew as well. You sleep and then stuff appears to you.
Right.
And I don't think it's usually translated as dream because that's like a message sent. But I think in this tradition, they really consider that the angels or whoever it is, these visions really appear to you.
Right.
That's how you would say it in classical Latin, something like per quietem visus est plus the dative, and it means
Yeah.
that's how you say it. And dreams are often, I mean, even in pagan literature, it's gods or other figures that come and stand at your bed. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not the way we have dreams, or they don't talk about it that way in literature.
Yeah.
Where you do something, and you know, we talk about going places or doing things. Dreams are figures like
They're sent.
that are sent to you, like the Penates appearing to Aeneas or whatever.
Yeah.
That's, you know. So I would have translated visus est ei, he saw in a dream.
You saw in a dream. That's good. Yeah.
Can, at the end of that, superlineara in the text, is that a mistake?
As opposed to what?
As opposed to superlineara, third conjugation?
No. Where did I look that up? It means to smear.
Right. Isn't that right?
I think so.
To smear.
But it's,
Well, you know, but in the vocabulary section in the back, it says superlineare. You're right. It's with an E.
because I looked it up in the OLD,
Oh,
third
okay.
conjugation.
And so does it say in Cassell's, which is what I have right here. Lino linere, liwi. So it shouldn't be linear. It should be linear.
There's no fourth conjugation.
I don't have Lewis and Short right here.
Well, I looked in the OLD, and it wasn't there.
No.
Oh, isn't that amazing that they even put the long mark on the I? Maybe that was one of those programs that does it for you.
Well, there's a lot of mistakes in the name.
Yeah.
Take them too seriously.
So if they mistyped the I,
I think
then
if
the long mark did
Well,
not.
I mean, I'm just checking. Certainly, Fontaine has superlineare.
Hmm.
Might depend on the manuscript.
Right.
I got it wrong.
Yeah, he does.
Okay.
Maybe it's later.
It's funny. I've developed a curious. If it's not my text, I care much less about getting it absolutely right. You know, I seem to be very
Tolerant?
no self-absorbed. I mean, just there are my texts and there are other people's texts. Anyway,
So,
other people's problems.
right. Okay, so we're sort of after the angel has daubed his blackened body with this ointment. Ita postero die restitutus est sanitati, ut nihil pertulisse incommodi putaretur. And thus on the next day, he was restored to health, so that it would be supposed he had suffered nothing ever of misfortune.
Good.
Or that he had ever suffered any misfortune.
Yeah.
Sed longum est ire pe singula. But it's tedious, or it's a long task to go through the individual cases, like with these miracles and stuff. Sufficiant haec vel pauca de plurimis satisquesit, nos et in excellentibus non subtrahere veritatem et in multis vitare fastidium. Let these things suffice, or a few from the many. Let these things, or a few from the many, sufficiant, suffice.
Can't well just be kind of intensive. Let these things, as it were, however few they may be.
Yeah, although just a few of
Although
many.
there are just a few of them.
Yeah, that's how I thought it.
Mhm.
The tendency was.
So, many suffice, and let it be enough. Satisquesit, that we, means I, both not detract from or undermine the truth in the outstanding stories, or outstanding miracles and stuff, and avoid dislike or aversion with many. In other words, by presenting too many.
Yeah, annoyance.
Yeah.
Right. Or it's a very elaborate apology, isn't it?
Mhm.
Kind of makes me, I don't know why I find that sort of
An elaborate what?
Apology.
apology for just not going on. I mean, he's just got covering both bases. I don't want to bore you, but I don't want to leave out anything important. And
Maybe he's trying to point out how many healing miracles there actually were.
right, I'm sure that's right, and I'm sure that they do get repetitive after a while, right? So he has to create a decent story.
Or maybe he doesn't know them. He just is claiming there are so many.
Well, but after what we've seen, just walking up and healing somebody by touching them would be kind of boring, right?
Yes.
Your audience, your Christian.
We've got healing himself. We've got, I mean, it's all, in a way, that is kind of the climax, right? Is he heals himself.
Yeah, I guess so.
Kind of the ultimate trick.
Huh.
The
Yeah,
angel.
because then he completely switches subjects.
Right.
Now we've come to the much more political and
Right.
social part.
Mhm.
Totally different realm.
Joanna, is this where you pick up? I mean, where you
I had signed up for 3, but I'm happy to start here. Or Jen can. I mean, or you.
I don't want to do it.
I mean, I'm happy to.
Why don't you? It's
Okay.
fun.
Okay.
So we're at section 20. Take it away.
Ad quod minora tantis inseram, quam vis, ut est nostrorum aetas temporum, quibus iam depravata omnia atque corrupta sunt, and that I may insert lesser things into such great ones. Paine praecipuum sit, I should have done that one. And no. Oh, I see. Paine praecipuum sit adulationi regiae sacerdotalem non cesse constantiam. That's his apology before he starts his story. All right. So that I might insert lesser things among great, although as it is, as the age of our time, as the age of our times, in which already all things are depraved and corrupt.
Right.
It is almost eminent or
It's almost kind of
everything.
it's a peak almost.
Yes,
Right.
it's a highlight. When the priestly constancy, or maybe when the priestly constancy does not cede to royal adulation.
Good.
Mhm.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah, that ut est nostrorum aetas temporum, you almost have to just not translate literally. Something like, such is the nature.
Yeah, such,
right?
Such, yeah.
I mean, literally, it's as is the time of our times.
As is the time of our era, exactly. As is the tenor of our era or something.
Yeah, so that's a hard little.
Yeah, although as is the time of our time, it is in fact almost a highlight
Right.
when this stuff happens. So maybe it's not so minor after all, I guess.
Exactly, right.
Okay. So then he starts the story. Cum ad imperatorem maximum ferrocis ingenii virum et bellorum civilium victoria elatum plures ex diversis orbis partibus episcopi convenissent et foeda circa principem omnium adulatio notaretur seque de generen constantia regiae clientelae sacerdotales dignitas subdidisset, in solo Martino apostolica auctoritas permanebat. Wow. All right. When conveniscent plures extivere, so I'm just going to do that last part and then go ad imperatorem maximum. When many bishops out of from various parts of the world had come together ad imperatorem to the Emperor Maximus, a man of fierce character and elated, having been lifted up. He was floating on cloud nine by a victory of the Civil War, by his victory in the Civil Wars. So when they had come together around him, who was all flushed with victory, and disgusting adulation was noted. Disgusting adulation of all these people was noted around the ruler, and the priestly, now this is what he was saying before, the priestly dignity had submitted, had given itself under, put itself under, what's that?
No, I'm just.
I thought somebody had suggested it. Had submitted to the degenerate wishy-washiness. I guess this is when you're being political and you say whatever you think is going to be good. So then you're in constant.
Here, I do think I have a. I think you want to say had submit the sacerdotalis dignitas subdidisset se.
Yeah, had submitted itself, right?
Okay.
Under the degenerate inconstancy, the wishy-washiness of royal clientship.
Isn't it had submitted itself to royal royal clientela with ablative manner, degenerate inconstancy?
Yes, I think that's.
Oh, yes. Sorry. Yep, I had taken the cases the wrong way around. Yeah, thank you. Had submitted itself, right, so the priestly dignity had submitted itself to this kind of clientship in degenerate wishy-washiness, yes. Right. Only in Martin himself, apostolic authority kept remaining.
It remained,
was staying strong.
Good. Yeah, that's a hard sentence. That's the hardest one we've had for a while.
Yeah, but good. Lots of good words. Lots of good words in there. Nam et si pro aliquibus regi supplicandum fuit, imperavit potius quam rogavit, et a convivio eius frequente rogatus abstinuit, dicens se mensae eius participem esse non posse, qui imperatores unum regno altrum vita expulisset. For even if there was something to be, even if something had to be asked, had to be supplicated, for some people of the king, supplicated to the king for some people, he, Martin, commanded rather than asked the king, because of course Sulpicius thinks that Martin is way above the king, so he doesn't need to ask the king. He should tell him what the right thing is. Right. He commanded rather than asked, and frequently having been asked to his party, to his frequently having, well, it's not to his party. He abstained. He stayed away from his party, although he was frequently.
Although he was frequently asked.
Yeah, so I would put an although in there, just for the rogatus there. He declined, saying that he was not able to be a participant in the table of him who had had stripped the emperors, one of his kingdom and the other of his life.
Exactly, or expelled
Yeah.
one from his kingdom, the other from his life. That's really condensed and hard, isn't it?
Yeah, that's a very interesting way to put it. Expulicet had
Mm-hmm.
expelled them. All right. And this is the part that I had signed up for. Should I just keep
Okay,
going?
sure.
Before you go on, the et at the beginning, I think you took it with C and said even if, but I think it's just et ... et, both and, like it's two different things. For he
Oh, the et and the et. Yes, I was just
ordered
reading.
rather than commanding
Yeah.
and wouldn't go to his dinner party.
Yeah. Nam et si pro aliquibus.
Oh, and, right.
So you're
And,
saying et rogavit, et imperavit, et
Yeah.
abstinuit,
Right.
saying that those go together.
right. Good.
Yeah, although I don't know if you can do that if you're listening to it or reading it. Then you have to change your whole concept of the first et once you get to the second, but I guess you could.
I think that's that creative reading thing that you
Yeah,
can, you know,
where it develops as you read.
right.
That's awesome. Okay.
And I think tone of voice would convey that if you said nam et si pro alic blah 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 et, like I think if you're anticipating it when you're reading it out loud,
Right.
your listener
You'd have to read ahead or,
Well, yeah.
or practice beforehand, right?
Yeah.
Although I don't know if I'm reading this, I think that the first phrase is so strong. It's like even if et si, even if there was something to be asked, even if he had to go to the king to ask him something, he didn't rogawit, he actually imperawit. So that et can really have that force in that clause. But you're also right, it could be both. Maybe it's elegant to have it be both.
I have no opinion. I'm certainly, if you decided that was et si, I don't think anyone could tell you you were wrong.
But then it does nicely parallel the other one. I think he's being really elegant here. Thanks, Jim.
I think this is one of the passages he worked really hard on.
Yeah. I think you're right. Okay, and here's another long one. Postremo, now he has to top that. Cum maximus se non sponte sum sisse imperium affirmaret, sed impositam sibi a militibus divino nutu regni necessitatem armis defendisse. I'll just stop there for now. And finally, when Maximus declared that so now this is the lead up to when Martin is going to accept his invitation. Now Maximus is going to be all apologetic and explain to Martin why he's really not the way he seems and he's really a good guy. So when Maximus declared that he had not taken up the rule voluntarily, but had defendisse necessitatem regni armis, had defended with arms the necessity of the rule, the necessity imposed upon him by soldiers, but with the divine nod that God had approved this with divine approval. And when he affirmaret, so this is all going to still hang off affirmaret, and when he declared that it's that the will of God did not seem alien, far away from him, penes quem, now I'll read it, I hadn't read this, et non alienam ab eo Dei voluntatem videri, penes quem tam incredibili eventu victoria fuisse, and that the will of God did not seem to be foreign, alien, far away from him, with whom lay the victory of such an incredible outcome.
Mhm.
And he still declared, so he's declaring all these things that I was like, not my fault that I'm such a big king and that I killed all these people and that all this stuff happened. So when he declared also that nullumque ex adversariis nisi in acie occubuisse, that no one from his adversaries had fallen, had died, except in the line of battle.
Mhm.
Tandem victus, now this is Martin,
Mhm.
tandem finally, victus vel ratione vel precipus ad convivium venit. Finally conquered either by reason or by entreaties, he came to this party, to this gathering.
Mhm.
Mirum in modum gaudente rege, quod id impetrasset. With the king rejoicing marvelously that he had succeeded, that he'd gotten what he wanted.
Oh, good. I have one just grammatical question with affirmaret.
Mm-hmm.
And Jen, you can pronounce on this. It's imperfect subjunctive, right?
Mhm.
Does that mean that we have to translate it as an imperfect, that he was constantly making these declarations, and then, which would of course fit with tandem, and finally he convinced Martin?
I think it's Vince.
Right. I'm really just talking about continuous action versus instantaneous.
Or he used to affirm it, so yeah.
But is there a way of saying? Can you distinguish that in a subordinate clause in the subjunctive?
In secondary sequence, I wouldn't expect to see a perfect subjunctive in a cum clause.
Right.
So I would say no, although, I mean, if you wanted it to be, if he had wanted to, he could have used a pluperfect.
Right.
And if he really didn't want it to be a continuous or a repeated action, and when he had said it once, he obtained, he got Martin to go. So
Right.
I think this choice of the imperfect suggests that it is a repeated.
Okay.
But
I didn't know that was building too much on it.
I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be a repeated action for that aspect. It can be more that, what's a good way to say it?
Whenever he would do this, like
Well,
we
not-
brought up before.
Not even necessarily that it's repeated, just that that it's an action that has duration or that has some sort of internal structure versus a heuristic type perfect that's just over and done.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So
And then what follows it is clearly something. I mean, he said lots. He was declaring or affirming lots of things,
Right.
different things. So
Okay.
it makes sense that he's not saying
Just one thing.
just one thing.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Is this where you take over, Paula?
No, I have one
Okay.
more.
I obviously haven't marked this very well at all. So anyway.
I have till considerat.
Okay.
Considerat.
I start at 5.
Okay. Sorry. Oh yes. Now I see my mark. Okay. Take it away, Joanna.
Convivae autem aderant, velot ad diem festum evocati, summi atque illustres viri, praefectus idemque consul Evorius, vir quo nihilumquam justius fuit, comites duo summa potestate praediti, frater regis et patruus. So now he's listing all the dignitaries that were here. Now, the guests were present as if having been called to a feast day, the highest and most illustrious of men, and most illustrious men, the prefect, and at the same time, and the same one who was also consul,
Right.
Evodius,
Right. He's got two. He's both those things. He's prefect and also consul.
and also consul.
Mhm.
A man than whom nothing ever had was more just.
Mhm.
But nobody really. Nemo, it should be almost.
Right. That neuter's weird, isn't it?
Yeah. And now there's a syndeton here. 2 companions endowed with the highest power, the brother of the king and the, who's that? The
Uncle.
one of the uncles.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's maternal or
Paternal.
It's
Yeah.
the paternal uncle because it's
Okay.
Patruus.
Mhm.
yes.
The
Right. That
maternal
does
uncle
make sense.
is the avunculus.
Those things just kind of, right, those things just kind of, yeah, the paternal uncle of the king. Medius inter hos Martini presbyter ac hubuerat. In the middle between these, Martin's presbyter had been seated or was lying, had lain.
Reclined, I think.
Reclined, that's good, yeah. Ipsa autem, this is Martin, in cellula juxta regem posita considerat. And he himself sat or had been seated in a seat placed right next to the king.
Good. And then we need Paula to explain why this is all interesting.
Yes.
Martin's
That was
come
all
a
the setup for
long
you,
way.
Paula.
Right, you're doing the setup.
Martin's come a long way from being a guy who just wanted to get out of the military.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see if I can dope this out. There were some weird things in this one. Okay. Ad medium fere convivium ut moris est paterem regi minister obtulit. Is it obtulit?
Oh,
Is it obtulit? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a short year.
Almost in the middle of the feast, as is customary, the servant carried the libation dish to the king.
Good.
Ille sancto ad modum episcopo potius dari ubet. Okay. He ordered it to be given instead to that completely holy bishop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Expectans atque ambiens. Is it ambiens?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Expecting and also beseeching or seeking. Ut ab ilius dextera poculum sumeret. That he himself, the emperor, should be taking the goblet from his Martin's right hand.
Is that right? Is that
Well, that's what the note is indicating.
That's what I thought.
okay?
Does somebody else have another reading?
Well, I thought it was. I just thought it was the other way around. That expecting that Martin would take it from his hand.
I was originally thinking that too, but there are a couple things. One is that the note says otherwise, and
Right.
the other is that the following makes more sense if the emperor is expecting to take it from Martin because of what Martin does next.
Okay.
Mhm.
Because it's when Martin hands it off that things get complicated.
Right. Okay.
So I think in context it's
Yeah,
that.
no, I'm just blanking out and expecting the other thing.
Okay.
Good. Keep going.
That's what Fontaine has as well.
And you would expect dextera sua if it were the emperor's hand.
True.
That's true.
Yeah, Elias should be Martin.
All right. So that's 6. Sed Martinus ubi ebibit, but Martin, when he drank, pateram presbytero suo tradidit. Handed the plate to his presbyter.
Mm-hmm.
The cup.
Yeah, the presbyter from the previous passage.
Uh-huh.
Nullum scilicet existimans, digniorem. Yeah, this one was kind of a weird thing. Valuing it is certain nothing more worthy.
Existimo can also mean think, so it introduces an indirect statement, thinking that no one was more
No one.
worthy.
The nullum is a person.
Right.
Okay.
And Skilicat, no doubt, thinking that there was nobody more worthy.
Okay. Okay.
Nullum and then qui.
Right. Okay. Qui post se prior biberet. Who after him should drink first. Nec integrum sibi fore. Nor would it be his own moral uprightness.
Right. Nor would it be right for him.
Okay. Yeah, that's better.
Honorable
Yeah.
for him.
Yeah. With integrity or whatever. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Si aut regem ipsum aut eos. If either the king himself or the others, it's implied, drank first.
Well, if
no,
try to listen.
Right. They're going to be the direct object of praetulisset.
Okay. Oh, came first. Okay.
If he Martin try to listen.
Put them first. Okay.
Can I tell you my old trick that I inherited from my Greek teacher in college?
Yes.
Yes.
Which I don't think I've ever done online in this class before. But when you have this accusative, you see regem ipsum aut eos. You know they're accusative, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we're English speakers, we totally want to make them the subject of the sentence. So you have to do something to knock that out of your head. And my old Greek teacher said, I mean, he wasn't an old Greek teacher at the time, said, as for, you say as for, if either as for the king himself or them actually works. And then you're kind of setting your brain up to expect it to be accusative and to look for a verb to make it a direct object. It's kind of awkward, because it's not fluent.
That's great for English speakers.
But it really helps. I'm one of those people who just, after all these years, if it comes first in the sentence, it's the damn subject, right? And you just, so hard to get that out of your head. So I've always found that really helpful. So if as for that king himself or those men who qui a rege erant proximi, and then
Who were next to the king.
Next to the king,
Yeah.
he had preferred them to the priest, to the presbyter.
Right.
Yeah, and then it just falls into place, kind of, and you can then recast it in your own mind or rewrite it in a translation. Okay.
That's a great trick to teach that to English speakers.
So it's si aut regem ipsum aut eos qui rege erant proximi presbytero praetulisset.
Mm-hmm.
So he's preferring the presbyter over them.
No.
Yeah, that's what actually ends up happening.
Right.
And
But
it says not
what it said was that it wouldn't be right if he preferred the king
Them.
or the guys next to him to
Over the presbyter.
Right. And in fact, if you moved presbytero praetulisset to the front of the sentence,
Yeah.
all the problems would just fall away.
Yeah.
Right? See praetulisset presbytero ipsum, right? That works. Or put presbytero later, if preferred him to the presbyter.
Yeah.
Right? It's just the word order that's messing us up, and it never goes away.
It just gets on my nerves when you go to the end of the sentence looking for the verb and it's not there.
It gets on my nerves when it is there. It gets on my nerves, when it isn't there.
It's definitely, yeah. And it gets even more fun when you get into the 12th, 11th, and 12th centuries, and you get these semi-literate scribes who don't really have good Latin grammar and don't really and speak vernacular, but they don't really write the vernacular very well either. So you get vernacular grammar with Latin words, and then it's kind of a free-for-all.
Yeah. I wouldn't want to be a scribe.
If you're lucky, you get Brendan, and if you're unlucky, you get this with Catalan words. So it's yeah. Okay, so
It's certainly not the case that the words are, in that order for no reason. They're in that.
they got a reason.
I
Yeah.
understand that. Right. There are two levels at which, yes, I totally get that. But just as trying to read the damn sentence, it's just, and because I really hate the idea of not translating those accusatives, right? Because, and that whole hunt and peck thing is not what you want to teach your students, right?
Yeah.
But you also need to register that accusativeness, or just your brain takes over and you forget.
I really appreciate that tip for teaching, because I feel like I have the German head start.
Mhm.
Because in German you can do the same thing, and so it's very natural
Right.
to take them as accusatives.
Mhm.
But then how do you get the brain of a really native English speaker to? I think that's a great tip for
Right.
teaching.
Well,
Thank you.
another way to think of it is to think of it not, minus the grammar, is to think of it as focalization, is what we would call that in English. So something like you could say
Vocalization or focalization?
vocalization, where which is something like the phone, it's loud, or topicalization is another way to call
Yeah, like him I hate.
Yeah, exactly. But
Right.
but we don't usually do it with the accusative. Well, like in him I hate, we would.
Right.
But usually we do it by kind of putting a comma. It's sort of like the
Oh.
like moi je suis blah blah blah. Like
Yeah,
where
yeah.
you
Right.
throw that first word in, or in English we often use like a cleft clause to do that and say, like, instead of saying like, I love cell phones, we could say it is cell phones that I love. And in Latin, you'd put cell phones first in the accusative. You wouldn't change the grammar,
Right.
word order. So there's
Right.
there's all kinds of ways you can try to get at that in a translation with, using like it is blah, or
And
like,
as for is great. Yeah.
is another way to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But they're all trying to get at that using topicalization or focalization in English.
It's kind of ironic that you're saying it's easier to think in that accusative way in German, because technically English is a Germanic language. But
Right. But German still
but the
has the
grammatical-
syntactical
Oh, yeah.
endings.
Yeah.
You have all those verbs piling up at the end of a clause like a bad car wreck,
But
big pile
English shares with Romance languages that big switch in grammar to subject, verb, object,
word order,
subject,
yeah.
verb, object. And that's very, very different from Latin, and it's different from German. And you're
Yeah,
kind of
German also, you can hold the first part of the construction in your brain, then do the rest, and then you finish it at the end. It's very natural there.
But
again,
English, which is technically Germanic, and Latin and Romance
Yeah.
languages, which are technically Latinate, don't have that.
It's bizarre, yeah.
Yeah.
But again, French loves to do it. It's actually really, really common in French, especially spoken French, to do that topicalization and put
Mhm.
and put an objective case, or in a noun you can't tell, but a pronoun you can, and put it at the beginning of the sentence. Like,
Yeah, especially in elegant French. Yeah.
do it all the time.
Like,
Yeah.
moi, j'ai trouvé ça, or je l'ai trouvé. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something like that. Yeah, but it's still, you still have the basic pattern of subject, verb, object that you really don't have in Latin. I mean, in Latin, that's not correct.
Well,
just,
but it depends on it's your emphasis again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I mean, generally, like Ciceronian Latin, you're going to be like clause after clause after clause after clause, just after clause. At the very end, oh, here's the verb.
Mhm.
And a lot of subsequent authors, as we can see here, really like the Ciceronian pattern. So,
Mhm.
okay, all right.
All right, let's-
So, moving on.
You got this.
Okay, quod factum, is it quad? Yeah, quad factum imperator omnes qui tunc aderant ita admirati sunt. Okay. Because of this deed, but there's no illa.
Hold it. Stop. I think again, this was never going to go away. Quad can mean because, but it can also mean which thing.
Which
And
thing?
here I think it's the object of admirati sunt. Which thing having been done,
Okay.
or as for which thing.
As for, yes, there you
Right.
go. That's your as for.
Then imperator omnesque.
Okay. So, which thing having been done?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But it's
The
the
emperor. What?
But it's the object. So again, you have to wait because it's the object. The emperor is the subject.
Hmm.
Yeah. The emperor and all those who were then present therefore admired it.
Good. Although ita is going to be picked up by ut. They admired it ita so much.
So much?
Ut,
Okay.
that. Right. So it's going to be a what do you call it? A result clause.
Yep.
Right. They did it so much that.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. Ut hoc ipsum eis, that this thing itself to them,
Mhm.
in quo contempti fuerant, in which they had been treated with contempt, placeret, pleased them.
Pleased.
Was pleasing? I
Right.
know, it's not really, yeah,
Was pleasing to them.
was pleasing to them, yeah. I
Right.
mean, they found it pleasing.
Right. And so you get what the in quo, this thing itself in which they had been so condemned, despised, eis placeret, was pleasing to them.
Yeah,
It's a slightly displaced in quo contempti fuerant, which is a little tricky too.
it's almost like an intransitive. I
Uh,
don't think it is, but
what is it?
placeret.
It's just a verb that takes the dative.
Okay,
Tends to take the dative. It is pleasing to do
was
something.
pleasing to them. Okay.
Right.
So was that eis?
Uh-huh.
Was pleasing to them.
Yes.
All right. Celeberimumque, that's a mouthful,
Mhm.
per omne palatium fuit, and it was much talked about through all the palace, fecisse, Martinum in regis prandio, that Martin at the king's meal had done this.
Good.
Now, are we being really specific about it being a luncheon, or is it just a meal?
Oh, I have no idea.
I think it just means meal because it was dinner, wasn't it?
I mean,
I would think so, because they were reclining. Yeah.
right.
I think it's a big lunch
A
feast.
banquet or something.
I mean, didn't they have dinner like at 3:00 in the afternoon or
Yeah.
something? You know?
They have dinner and supper, and I'm not sure they'd have it at 3.
Well, Cana would be dinner.
Time.
Cana would be dinner time, and Prandium is the noontime. But it could be a
Right.
big dinner.
Right, but I think it'd just be a meal of the king, generally.
Right, because, well, you've got, if you're in the Mediterranean, you're doing a siesta of some kind during that period. So would you have a meal during 3 o'clock?
I don't know, but anyway, this is northern
be asleep?
France. So
Yeah, I know. They would still follow kind of similar
I'm
customs.
sure they
though.
nap.
I think if we say dinner can be either at lunchtime or at dinner time.
True. Okay. Quod in themorum judicum conviviis nemo episcoporum fecisse. Or fecisse.
Kiss.
Mhm.
Okay. That he had done this. I don't really get this very
There's
much.
just an id missing. That he had done id quad.
Mhm.
That he had done it.
Yeah, like
Or-
a thing which.
Yeah, for no man in the feast but the lowest of judges and bishops.
Which no one of the bishops had done
Oh, okay.
in the feasts of low-class judges, not low-class,
The lowest. The
Lowest,
lowest
yeah.
status judges.
Yeah, when in doubt, start from the back. Quod
Mhm.
fecisse, quod nemo episcoporum fecisse.
Mhm.
No, he's being humbler than his humbler colleagues. Kind of the thing.
Well,
Yeah.
he's doing something more daring that they didn't dare to do. Even if they were dealing with low judges, they didn't dare to diss them the way Martin dissed the
Right.
king.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
Good.
On pronunciation, Paula, because I hear you're being very careful about it, which is awesome.
Okay.
Celeberim mumque, the stress does go on mumque. Whenever you have que at the end of a word, it shifts the stress to the syllable right before it because it's an enclitic. So
Okay.
that would be celeberim mumque.
Celeberumque. Okay, got it.
Beautiful.
All right. Going up a little bit more. Eidemque maximo longe ante praedixit futurum ut. Okay. Now we've heard of maximum before, so it's by the certain Maximus?
The same Maximus.
By the same Maximus,
Right.
okay.
It's dative agreeing with Maximus. And this is Maximus the usurper emperor. He's actually legitimized. He's actually a legitimate emperor, but he was a usurper. So to the same Maximus.
Okay. A long time before, he preached the future.
Here, I think it's actually, at least the most obvious meaning is I think the most easiest one, which is he predicted the future.
Predicted the future. Okay.
And that's Martin, right? Is the subject.
Right. Or actually predicted futurum.
Good.
Esse.
Right. That he predict that it would happen that.
That it would happen that. Okay. If he proceeded to Italy, where he desired to go. So sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Ut si ad Italiam pegeret, quo ire cupiebat. Okay. Bellum Valentiniano imperatori, inferens sciret se primo quidem impetu. Is it impetu? Impetu.
Impetu.
Impetu? Okay. Futurum esse victorem. Okay. The war by the Emperor Valentiniano advancing? Or the army, sorry, army.
I think you've forgotten, I think you lost the thread of the sentence. So he predicted to the same Maximus long before that it would happen that if he went to Italy where he wanted to go.
Yes.
Now, in Bellum Valentiniano Imperatori inferens, where he wanted to go inferens,
advancing?
Bringing, right, Pharaoh?
Bringing the army, to the Emperor Valentiniano?
And that's kind of an idiom, right? Inference.
Bringing the war?
To wage war against, to start a war against someone.
Right, yeah.
That's in Livy a lot, I think.
Yep.
So, right, so he said if he went to Italy where he wanted to go to bring the war to Valentinian, scire.
Okay. Sciret se primo quidem impetu. Oh, we already did that.
Right.
He should know that he would be the future, the victor.
Primo impetu.
In the first future attack.
Attack, right. In the first attack. And then quidem is a sneaky little word, right?
It's like men and death.
It's like forsooth, like to be sure he'll be the victor in the first attack. But
then you're waiting for a butt.
Right, right, and it's really just setting up the butt, right? Although he would be something like that. To be sure he would be the victor in the first attack, but he should know sed parvo post tempora esse periturum.
Yeah, said parvo post tempora esse periturum. He would be dead a little afterward.
Right. So he would win, but then he would die.
Yeah.
That's what he's predicting. And you'll never guess, but that's what happened.
Oh, golly.
Right.
You gotta love chroniclers. You really do.
Right.
They're so good at predicting things, and of course, when they're writing decades or centuries later.
Right.
Quod quidem ita vidimus.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in fact what we saw.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Nam primo adventu eos Valentinianus in fugam versus est. For in the first assault, well, that doesn't make sense. Oh, yes, it does make sense.
does.
Valentinianus was himself turned to flight.
Mm-hmm.
Deinde, what?
At his first assault. At Maximus's first assault.
Yeah, yeah. Deinde post annum fere resumptis viribus captum intra, Aquileia muros maximum interfecit. Then, after a year,
Fere just kind of modified almost a year, right?
no, okay, then after almost a year, okay. I had trouble with Resumptis.
Resumptis viribus, with the strength restored, maybe?
Okay.
Namely,
By his men?
Well, maybe Valentinian got his strength restored.
Not
Our
weary.
forces.
Yeah, from vires virium, not
Right,
from
strength.
weir.
Strength, not men.
Oh, strength restored.
But it's confusing because they're plural strengths.
Right.
Yeah,
It
strength
actually means
restored.
men. He got an army back together again. Right.
He killed the captured Maximus
Yeah.
between the walls of Aquileia.
Yes.
Yeah.
Within.
Okay. Or within the walls. Yeah, that would make sense. Inside Aquileia, which is a fortress.
Captured within the walls, he killed Maximus. Right.
And this is one of those things that is very, very Latin to do this. Captum maximum interfecit. We would say he captured and killed, but
Yeah.
Latin likes to subordinate one of them and not use the paratactic.
Mm-hmm.
So Latin likes to say he killed the captured Maximus, but the sequence of events is he captured him and killed him, we would say.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Nice point.
It occurs all the time.
All right.
That was fun.
Well done. What do you guys want to do for the future? We could push on and do a big chunk. I mean, we could do a slightly larger chunk, get down to the end of 25, and then finish the next time. Actually, no, we could be less radical, but basically, if we can finish in two sessions. When do you want to have the 2 sessions? You're the core.
And Bruce.
And Bruce. And who knows who else. But we're just doing this for, why don't I stop recording, by the way? I'll stop recording.